after several months on the run from the horrifying Tom monster. The gangster monster. We are back.
Some of us. The ones that survived.
The ones that survived the attack. Hello, welcome back to Larpers and Tarps. We are back after our little long break, our long dark hiatus, and surviving the Tom gangster monster. For those of you that listen to the Halloween special, don't worry, we're all fine now. Tom's in a gradual recovery. We should be good to go. How are you doing, Chloe?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You enjoy the long dark?
No.
It's awful, isn't it? It's terrible.
I don't like
I've
this.
barely had time off LARP because it's just been
lucky you.
one
What
after
do
the
you
other.
do?
But I'm still like hungry for Empire again.
Of course you are, you whore.
Rude. But my next one is Soiree, so I'm excited. But today we are lucky enough to have a guest with us.
Whoop, whoop.
We're going to be talking a little bit about crewing at Empire and NPCing at Empire, and I'd like to introduce Mike. If you'd like to say hello, Mike.
Yeah, hey everyone, my name's Mike. So I'm long-term plot writer. I'm now recently the co-head of field plot at Profound Decisions for Empire LRP. Happy to be here.
Ooh.
Thank you very much for joining. Well, how recent is that? How recent? When did that change?
Over winter. So
Okay, nice.
the previous head.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So I've mentioned your characters a few times on the podcast. Well, specifically one character, I think. I've mentioned Revel. You were the main herald of Barian, I think is fair to say.
Wait, you've never mentioned Barian.
I think the first time I spoke to you, I was trying to organise you to come sit at our camp, and then we've been doing other stuff since then. But yeah, have you been at Empire since it started?
Yep, since the very beginning. Yeah, played Maelstrom before I started Empire. But yes, I've been a year one, event one player. I've only missed 2 events ever, I think. So yeah, been in two events. So into what 42 events?
I've never missed a single one. I think you let the side down.
That's but over a shorter period of time. To only miss 2 events in that much time is so bloody impressive. Like, I'm very jealous of that record.
Yeah, right time, right place, fortunately.
So how long have you been LARP? Are you one of these that was like lucky enough that you got into LARPing when you were like really young, or did you come to a bit later?
So not really young. Started it at uni, so when I was 18. So been doing it sort of 17 years, 17, 18 years. So Empire we're nearing the point where Empire will be sort of like the halfway point for me. But no, started with a local uni system up in Nottingham, which is still going. Still noticing people who are involved in that. And then went on to Lorien Trust. Lorien Trust was the first big fest system, which I went to at the time. Did that for a bit. Had some issues, shall we say? But then ended up going to Maelstrom, being invited to Maelstrom with Jer, my friend Jer, guy who plays Cesare Rezia, long-term senator for Tasato.
Somebody whose name I think has also been mentioned on the podcast by Tom.
Tom has definitely mentioned Cesare.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, there are a bunch of important names in the Empire universe who are still out there at Maelstrom. And yeah, played that system, pretty good. Played some other systems along the way as well. And then eventually, we got the word of Maelstrom that the system was ending, and there was this new thing called Empire coming. Got the leaflets through, and they had a stand up with all of the nations that they were going to have, and all of the sort of prep work, and we were all super stoked, and that's how my Empire journey began.
I can't, obviously, because Empire was both of our favourite LARPs, and I can't imagine being there like when it started.
Oh, I so wish I was. Like, I'm so jealous. That's why I'm kind of like keen to like get to Menhirs, because then just being able to say like I mean, Menhirs sounds really fun, but I would love to have been able to say I was at Empire day one.
Yeah.
So to pass up that opportunity would be really stupid, just because what a brag it is being at Empire day one. Like, what a fucking brag.
So did you did you start playing Maelstrom and move to crew, or did you always play? Like, what was how did you kind of come into crewing? Did you start crewing at Maelstrom, or did you start playing?
Yeah, so maybe just to go back a bit, I mean, at the Union LARP I did and the Lorien Trust, there's much more of a atmosphere of they don't have a lot of full-time crew. Basically, you sort of like monster whenever you want to, and you get in character currency for it. But when I went to Maelstrom, I was just a player. I was still a relatively young LARPer at the time. And that had a much more professional crew setting. Maelstrom was an entirely PvP setting, so there was no monster crew. There were some NPCs, but not loads. It was, part of the system ethos was they was trying to get players to sort of go at each other with sort of minimal crew, which, if you ask anyone who's been to Maelstrom, might have differing opinions about how well that worked. Also, the fact that if you talk to Matt Pennington about his Maelstrom experience, he'll talk about the point at which he decided that he just had to kill the system, and then made Empire instead. So, sort of, it gives you some info about that. But no, I played Empire from the start, and then after a few years was when I started moving to crew.
What nation did you start off in?
The league, I played six characters in the same league group.
Oh, don't tell Tom.
Why?
hang on. You played as in you died 6 times, I assume.
Well, I think one of them was a retirement, so I think I died 5 times.
Oh, okay.
That's impressive. I've still never had a LARP character death or D&D character death.
I'll get you one day.
But I've managed to keep you at bay for 3 years.
So you. How many years were you playing before you jumped onto the crew side?
So 2017 was when I started crewing. So I would have been playing. I think it was the 5th year of the game. So for 4 years, and then my second character died halfway through 2017. And at that point, I was like, so my second character was a general. I was really interested in the military side of the game, and they died. I was kind of sick of them anyway, so I was on the verge of retirement. And I was like, I don't really think there's anything left for me on the player side. But I still really love the game, really love the setting and the ethos and everything. So I was definitely interested in sticking around. So started looking into crewing, looked into skirmish crew at first, because they were hiring at the same time as well. But then, someone I knew on crew was like, you should. I think actually you might be a better fit for NPC crew. You should give it a go. And so that's a history as it was. That's when I started, and just been full-time crew ever since.
What army were you general of?
Tarjaks.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about the league armies. I think that's the only league army I know of.
I think the only thing I know about the league is booty shorts. So
yeah.
Yeah, I was not a booty shorts wearer. It was fashion hadn't quite reached that point. People hadn't learned to sew that good yet. But no, I am on the wiki one line on the Tarjaks page. Was the second general of the Tarjaks because it got reformed in play. So back after we took Holberg.
Okay. So you got involved with NPC crewing. What was your first kind of role? Like, what did it involve when you first started?
So literally my first role was being a herald of the Cowway. I've still got a picture of it. It was boiling hot, that event. Probably I think it must have been E3 2017. So you can see me in my nice blue face paint with lots of little crystals glued to my face. You can already see that they're all sweating off already. And
fancy.
And funnily enough, so when you join NPC crew, you get a bit of a spiel. One of the things is that, like playing the game, NPC is going to involve a lot of walking often, for a lot of people, especially if you have to go and find people on the field. So people are like, oh, your first job, you've got to go find these 3 people. It'll probably take you a while. Luckily, it was 3 people who I was all like best mates with when I was a general. So I did it in 10 minutes. And
you knew where to find them.
Yeah, it's just knew exactly where to find them.
Which bar?
But yeah, that was my first role. But I mean, it's a real mixed bag each event. Even from the very start, you'll probably be doing 6, 7, maybe more, maybe less. Depends on exactly what's going on at the event. Roles, some roles are very short. Some roles you might be going out for hours and really getting to grips with something in the player base. It's depends on what the plot writers have written and depends on what you fancy taking.
So how many characters have you actually played then? Like, have you got a tally, or like on average, how many do you do over the weekend?
I have absolutely no idea how many I've played in total. I mean, it must be.
Year?
Even this year.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So, so just to give a bit more context, so from 2017 until what was the first year we came back after the pandemic, 2022 was that the first? Yeah. So until the end of the 2022, I was just I was just an NPC. So just doing roles that have been written by other people and going out and performing them. I think probably sort of like seven roles an event, usually something like that. So do the maths in your head.
Yeah.
To that point, I in the sort of winter period, I started writing my own plot. Some of which you crew yourself, some of which you give to other NPCs to go off and do. So yeah, so I don't do so many roles anymore, but still like to keep my hand in.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm curious as well. So what kind of roles? When you say like so it's really funny in my head. You're Revel. Because that's I never don't think I ever met your downtime guy, Colm, and as far as I know, I've never met you as any other character. So in my head, I'm like, well, that's Revel, but obviously you're doing other things. What kind of NPC are you hitting? And I know you hear all the things of the people coming to the field, but what kind of people do you play? Like, if you can say that, or is it too wide ranging?
No. I mean, so one of the things that when people join NPC team is we'll try and get an appreciation of what people like to play, because obviously Empire's a big system. It's wide ranging. There's all sorts of different play styles involved in it, and that's true for players. It's true for crew as well. So my big thing that I love to do is I like sort of more philosophical stuff. I like kind of diplomatic stuff. I like more real world things. So I love to play foreigners and barbarians. Where I can, that's absolutely my favorite. I'm also a big Orc Mask fan, which plays to my strengths because there's a lot of not Orc Mask fans out there. So if there's a juicy Orc role,
that's crazy to me. Like, I assume everybody that wears an Orc Mask does so under duress. Like
every opportunity to not wear a mask.
Yeah, I remember one event. I think I played. I played 6 different Orc characters. And that might have not included the battle as well. And I think I was playing an Orc, like my player character in downtime was an Orc as well. So yeah, I would wear an Orc mask like all the time if I could.
I mean, I suppose there was always going to be someone out there that enjoyed wearing them.
You're a real sicko for it when I played a couple of times. I've played an Alienaris Herald, and it's listed in the wiki that Alienaris Heralds are sometimes Orcs, and I'll play an Orc Summer Herald, so an Orc with antlers, which freaks people out. It's very funny because they're not expecting it, and B, you don't have to do it. You could just not wear an Orc mask, and I'm just like, nah, I love it.
Respect to it. Like I said, any opportunity for me to not wear a mask, I will. Like, even if we are wearing masks on the field when we're monstering, halfway through the battle, I'm like, nah, can't breathe, can't deal with it.
I'm dying.
I always put like war paint underneath because I know that I'm going to end up taking the mask off. I just can't do it. I just can't breathe. I have no idea how people deal with it.
I think it helps getting your own. Like, you? I'm assuming you have your own mask.
I've actually gone through several. I've worn an Orc mask out.
Out, like not Empire related out, like out.
No, as in it's been worn out.
Yeah.
Right.
Not down his local.
I mean,
right, okay.
I might have worn outdoors at some point. I've certainly worn them to other lots. But no, yeah, just they don't last forever. If you talk to any of the Imperial Orcs there, if you're wearing one all day every event, they last sort of like a couple of years before the latex goes. You have to replace it. So. Yeah.
Have you got like a good suggestion on where to get one? Because I really should just get my own, because then I could just fuck around with it and like tailor it to my face. But they're like, there's so many places out there, and some of them just don't quite look right. And I don't know, like, where would you suggest gonna get a good one?
I've always just got mine from Mandala. So Mandala, same people. So Mandala also work behind the scenes doing a lot of the production stuff for plot, so building sets and that. But they make, so essentially you can get them from them, and essentially even if you just get one from them, you can it's just your mask and you can trim it and fit it to your face a bit better. Unfortunately, I think the advice that I tend to give people is there's not really any secret to it. It's you either like it or you don't, basically. I don't think there's any real way to. I don't really have any tips, unfortunately, other than you just sort of get used to it.
No, totally fair. Like, anytime I wear an orc mask, I either have to choose vision or breathing, just because I've got such a small head that it just doesn't sit right on my head. Like, I either have the mouthpiece where the mouth goes, but the eyes are like on the top of my forehead, or I put the eyes there and then the mouthpiece is like around my throat. And I was like, okay. It was so awful that one time where I was so hungover during the heat wave of 2023, where the orc mask then. God, I have so much respect for the Imperial Orcs. Yeah. Having to deal with that, like, it's fucking mad.
Yeah, it's tough. When it's bad, it is bad. I went from my first personal orc mask that I had was the balaclava style one. So it's got the latex face and then a cloth back. And then I went on to the full latex hero one. So the ones that sort of like look nicer. And I didn't realise that if you get that, there isn't the same level of friction holding it to your head. So when I wore it in a battle, my head got sweaty and literally the outside of my head is like flopping about and sliding around, which is one of the most awful experiences I've ever had.
Oh, what a concept.
Yeah. I think mine's, because I think mine's full latex, but it's more like cloth at the back. But again, I think mine is just a bit too echoey. Because I feel like when I'm yelling, my head fills with yells. Anyway, I've realised we've spent a long time talking about orc masks.
Orc mask, the special, sure.
But so I've kind of mentioned this already, that you are you played Revel for a long time. Would you say Revel's probably like your more memorable character? Would you say you've got someone else, or in fact, who would you say is your most memorable? Like your biggest character, and who would you say has been your like personal favourite to play? Like you've had the most fun with?
Yeah, so just for context, if anyone doesn't know who Revel is one of the chief heralds of the Eternal Barrion, and in particular deals with all of the stuff relating to the ritual challenge, the Iron Duke. So which sadly turned off last year, but basically you get a challenge from the Summer Realm. And essentially, I was dealing with all of that both behind the scenes and also as my character, as my non-player character Revel in front of the scenes. So I definitely think Revel is probably the most memorable for the player base. Just because I've been playing Revel since before the pandemic, portraying Revel. It was had to go through like an application process to get that role, because it was quite it involves quite a lot of responsibility, and it's basically responsible. Essentially what I ended up plot writing in the end. Because I ended up, the first thing I did was ended up taking over the Iron Duke challenges. That was the first plot writing thing I ever did. But yeah, certainly it's a tough one, because on one hand it probably is the most memorable character, but on the other hand, I still to this day get a lot of people who don't realise that I play Revel. When I'm NPCing, I really do quite enjoy, being anonymous and unrecognisable. One of the reasons I do like orc masks. So it's sort of weird, because a lot of people not necessarily realise it with me. On the other hand, people who have spoken to me a lot will still be able to recognise me underneath the orc mask. But no, Revel's definitely, you're just probably one of the longest running NPCs that's out there. So obviously, anyone who's been involved in that sort of the summer side of things will recognise them.
I did really enjoy how you played. I think one of my favourite stories about Revel is that you try and make conversation with this being from another plane of existence and try to talk about stuff. And I think I made an offhanded comment to Revel of I imagine you experienced time differently in the Summer Realm, and you just turned to me when I was like, I think it's a really boring thing to say, and just was like, wow, okay, fair enough. I think you said my cousins in the day row might be interested, but I think that's dull. And I was like, yeah, all right, fair enough. I just got called a nerd by the embodiment of the summer realm.
Yeah, it's
nerd.
It's an interesting challenge portraying Revel because essentially, I've described it elsewhere that essentially it's playing the role of Revel is more like playing a civil servant who's magical than most NPC roles. You know, it's more like bureaucratic, basically. Especially once I've taken on the plot writing job of writing the challenges and things like that. It's like, you know, you just sort of you're just managing the challenges and things like that. So, and also from the jump, Revel was always written as the much more sort of like sober, polite, officiator of the Herald. So it was always sort of like, I'm always looking for opportunities to like get the fun in where I can, just to keep it on edge. And also because sometimes, you know, people, you know, the mortals get a bit too chummy, and sometimes you've got to put them in their place. You know, you've got to remind you that you're this like weird, you know, right hand man of Barry, it's just like
that you're better than them.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, you don't need to say it all the time, but you know, sometimes
you just need to make sure they're aware that you are better. It's the most summer realm.
Summer realm behaviour.
Yeah. There's always little things like I'd always say like I'd always remind people that like the Empire is just like one bit of the area that Barry cares about. You know, it's like your little corner of the mortal realm, and just talk about like the Atune and stuff. Like, oh yeah, Keirheim's nice this time of year. You know, they're up for it over there. You know, Jarm's nice for a visit.
Yeah, just like all these people that we're at the throats of. You're like, yeah, well, whatever. I think that's a funny thing about having to contend with the fact that we fight Eleonaris heralds supporting the Jotun, and then at the same time we're having them, and we have to just be like, this is fine. They're above. They don't really care.
It's fine. Just turn the other way. It doesn't matter.
Just we had taking a new position and getting some new sort of colleagues I'd worked with before as plot writers, but who are now sort of stepping up into higher roles. And we had a discussion about sort of what plot is. You know, what's the purpose of plot at Empire? Because Empire's not like most games, you know, or a lot of games where, you know, if you're running a D&D game or something, you have a dungeon master who's telling a story, and, you know, obviously you participants participate, but, you know, at the end of the day, there's sort of this narrative that's being told, which is not necessarily the case at Empire. You know, there's 3,500 players, and you're all off doing whatever it is you do on the other side of the hedge in Anvil. And so the purpose of plot really is to all this world that exists on the wiki and, you know, in text. The point of plot in the NPC team is to bring that to life and sort of show people it's like, this is actually what the Summer Realm is like in reality, in the flesh. And, you know, and the same with the barbarians and the foreigners and all of that stuff. So I think it's important to think about when we're portraying NPCs, and think about how that comes across to the player base, this sort of glimpses into the wider world that they wouldn't get to see otherwise.
Have you got like a favourite NPC highlight that sticks out in your mind? If you had to pick the best moment that you've had as an NPC, what would you say it is?
The best moment is a Revel moment, and that is the I can never remember what Dawn calls it. Is it Dawn Bowl? But anyway,
the Grendel fight.
The Grendel fight. Yeah, that's. So the thing is that's a tough one. That's the coolest thing I think I've been involved in. That was just dope to witness. So
we spoke about it a little bit on the podcast, but do you want to give a summary of what the kind of idea was?
Yeah, so it's one of the earliest. It's a challenge that I wrote, and when I write from a plot writing perspective, I'm always thinking about sort of like I'm trying to create a moment or come towards some sort of moment. And I had this idea in my head that I was like, I want the Grendel to come into Anvil, I want them to have like a gladiator fight with someone, and then Nat Damorum, goes for a challenge and write something about creating an entertaining fight, and I'm like, okay, we can do something. And so I basically orchestrated the challenge was create the most entertaining fight that the Empire has ever seen, knowing that I'm going to send some Grendel onto the field. And I think this was like 3 or 4 events in the making, because I know it was delayed. because they wanted to try and avoid summer because it would be a massive heat wave, and then ended up running it in autumn in the middle of an even bigger heat wave, which was why everyone looks sweaty if you see any of the pictures of this.
I was in that fight.
I know. I was in the same group as Cass, who plays reading out about getting water poured down them and stuff. All the Grendel skirmish crew in their orc masks, which is tough. I think I drank
brave people.
Yeah, I think I drank 2 liters of water in about 30 minutes, just sitting in the throne with bemoaning the fact that Revel doesn't have any sort of hat or hood. But yeah, no, I kept it under wraps that it was going to be Grendel because I didn't say anything, but I think everyone assumed that it would just be Summer Herald, and I sort of let everyone continue with that because it was funny for me for it to be a surprise.
You didn't give any information, but you weren't going to tell them they were wrong.
No, yeah. Basically, I was just very enigmatic about it, which fortunately Revel is enigmatic quite a lot of the time, so it wasn't particularly suspicious.
It was also very funny because two of the announcers, two of the troubadours that were announcing fighters, both had icy Grendel trauma. So when the Grendel arrived, they were like, "Oh my god, oh no." It was a very cool moment.
Yeah, but no, that was sort of a moment of just because sometimes, that's probably my favorite plot writing moment. I mean, as an NPC, I just sort of sat there and watched it all unfold. My favorite NPC moments, I've got a lot, and
give them to us.
Yeah, well, it's trying to think because some of them are unfortunately still secret. I remember you
have to pick one favorite. Give us some good ones.
Yeah, I remember the first time. I can't remember the details, but the first time I did a past life vision, so crewed a past life vision because I never got one as a player. Never even tried. But the opportunity to do that was really good, and that's I'll try and do past life visions as much as I can, if time permits, and I've written a few as well. But they're just some of the most intense role playing experiences in a short space of time, that I've ever experienced. And that's often what I want. I often want an intense experience, something strong. My first moment that I really remember as being this is awesome is when I visited Anvil as a Yatoon when and basically had to go visit Wintermark to make a negotiation, but also then to do a cultural exchange with Wintermark and the Imperial Orcs. And with the Imperial Orcs, basically the brief was, you're going to find out if they're compatible with the Yatoon or not, essentially. What is their deal? Because to the Yatoon, the Imperial Orcs, a quarter of them are from Yatoon stock from back in the slavery days. But it's what are they now? What are they? We don't really know that much about them. And came onto the field, had literally an honor guard of Wintermarkers, with all the swords up and all of that, which I was not expecting at all. I was just walking in there with a tankard, and I was like, okay, this is this
just
is
take a little casual stroll.
Yeah, and that's one of those moments where you're okay, I have to up the sort of seriousness of this situation, because with sometimes the situation changes more than you expect, and then having this intense negotiation as you tune with Wintermark, and then literally crowds of Wintermarkers wanting to talk to you, and later on having talking until into the late hours with the Imperial Orcs, just having this really in-depth discussion about sort of ancestors and our cultures and that, and at the end of it basically my character is just going, we are nothing alike. Whatever some of you might have been your team to start with, but you're nothing like us now. You're just something completely different, and that's the end of it, but in quite an amicable way. And I remember that's sort of the earliest role that I did that's ever really stuck with me, and I've always tried to sort of chase that sort of role again, anyone who can sort of put a mirror to the Empire so that Imperials can see sort of someone who is from outside of the Empire but believes in whatever they believe as fervently as the players do. That's the thing that's really, really valuable to me because of just the ambiguity of the Empire setting. They're no one is canonically like the good guy or the bad guy or anything like that. It's all just sorts of like everyone's working with imperfect information and have come to different conclusions.
Yeah. No, I think I think one thing I do wonder as well is, as a player, when I'm interacting with crew, you wonder sometimes how much information they have, because obviously what I imagine what happens is you're given some information and then you might be asked something outside of your realm of knowledge. So like what is the process of like coming from like God as your NPC? Like when you get there, you're told who you're going to be. How do they make sure that you know enough to be able to be that character on the field in a convincing way?
Yeah, so the annoying answer is it depends. The more useful answer is again, it really depends on what role you're trying to play. Essentially, every time you go out, you're going to be going out as an encounter that someone's written, and that will have as much or as little information as is needed. Based off of what's happening. Sometimes encounters are just very short. You're just going to be going out 15 minutes to just do something quick, and obviously it'll be, there won't be too much detail there. Sometimes if you're playing something novel, you're playing someone that's not turned up before, or it turns up very rarely, or something weird, there might be a lot of text to digest. Someone will have written something quite in depth that you'll need to do your best to to memorize. Maybe you'll have notes on to help with that. If there's particularly complicated things that might require a particular skill set, the plot writers will ask for people to volunteer before the event so that you have more of a chance to take some stuff that you want and be able to digest it and maybe sort of ask questions. And you're able to ask questions of the plot writer as well. But a lot of the time, most of the stuff that goes out is, things that exist on the wiki, whether that's an imperial nation, someone from an imperial nation, whether that's a foreigner, a barbarian, or someone from the realms. And so you've always got the wiki to fall back on in terms of stuff that you can look at, which of course also the players do as well. So you can relate in that way. You can make references to stuff on the wiki and fall back on that. And if you want to do a little bit of improvisation, but there's stuff that's not written explicitly in your particular encounter.
So I guess it's like make sure you know. So again, your initial answer of it depends, right? It's like if you're going out with as much information as you can prepare yourself with. So I guess what happens if someone asks you a question you don't know the answer to it? Like what's the deal there? What happens then?
So one of the things that you're taught very early on in NPC crew is just to say no. If someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, you just say you don't know, or you just say that's not why I'm here today. We're not here to talk about that. Sure. Something like that. It's really important, or NPCs don't start making things up and giving out, going off the handle. Obviously, a bit of improv for the sake of role play is fine, but there are limits. A lot of it depends on how much how good your wiki knowledge is. Of the various things. So one of the things that certainly happened to me in NPC crew was when you start off, there'll be certain bits that you'll feel very comfortable doing. I played in the league for 4.5 years, so obviously playing any league character was going to be fine, and there were other bits that I was up to date with. But if anyone asked about portraying a Navari or something, I'm just like, I've got no idea. I'm going to try and avoid that unless I'm unless you're like with some mates who can sort of back you up. So, but over time, you try and take on roles to sort of expand your breadth of knowledge, and so you can hopefully like take on anything.
Just try and like evade the question as best as possible without trying to bullshit your way.
Yeah, that is a pro move that you learn, is the delicate art of answering a question without saying anything.
So is that like, obviously that must be a trait to have to make a good NPC. What would you say makes a good NPC?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, Empire's a big game. There's a big breadth in the player base in NPC, so we can accommodate a lot of stuff. Basically, general traits to make a good NPC: being able to have a bit of improvisational role play is good. So because you're not working from a script. You're gonna have a brief. You're gonna have the setting details to fall off or fall back on. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to turn that into sort of a memorable encounter with the players. So it's up to you to sort of do your characterization, that sort of thing. I mean, that's just sort of what playing is as well. So a lot of these skills are pretty similar to what it is for playing. Having a pretty good knowledge of the setting, or at least a willingness to learn, and having a really good knowledge of some bits is good.
Yeah. Sure.
Again, you're not. If you come straight into NPC crew, the expectation is not that you're going to be able to do like everything immediately. The assumption is there's going to be bits that you're more comfortable with and bits that you're less comfortable with. And yeah, just good work ethic as well, because it is you want to get out there a lot. It's it can be a lot of walking, there can be a lot of sort of setup and things to do. Anyone who's crewed any other system knows that if you're crewing, there's always something to do, whether it's like tidying up costume or helping set up your encounter or making sure you're prepared and all of that stuff. So it is a much more structured situation than playing Empire, which can be a pro and a con. One of the things I like about it, and other people have said that they like about being on the plot side and the NPC side, is you go to every event and you're sort of everything's timetabled out beforehand, and what you're going to do, and everything's broken down into little chunks. Whereas some people can have the experience of you turn up to play Empire and you're sort of dumped into this big sandbox, and it's like off you go. And it's like, okay,
what do I do?
Yeah.
So like, how easy is it to get into crewing? Like, how does one become crew or NPC?
Yeah. So as of January 2025, NPC crew is currently hiring. So essentially what you need to do is send an email to crew@profounddecisions.co.uk. I think I nearly said .com, but I think it's .co.uk. And there's a page on the wiki as well called current crewing opportunities, which is kept up to date with all of the stuff, all of the jobs that you can apply for, because not every team is applying all of the time.
So it's just as easy as that.
Yeah, so the game director Claire will get in touch with you. You just have a quick interview just to check your suitability, and then see if we can offer a place on the team. One of the things that we are going to be trialing this year is a bit of a new angle on NPC crew. We're forming a new team, which is going to be dealing with sort of the larger encounters, so things like plenipotentiaries and other situations where a bunch of NPCs turn up at once. And part of the aim of this is to be a bit of an easier on-ramp for new players, maybe who don't have experience with Empire, or don't have a lot of experience with Empire or LARPing in general, because in a lot of in a lot of other systems, crewing is often a good way to get involved, because you have a play, you don't have to pay for your ticket. It's a good way to get people involved. But problem with Empire is, like I said, you being an NPC, often you might be going out by yourself or with one other person, and so if you don't have the good setting knowledge, you can we've seen people get into a bit of trouble before. So hopefully we're going to be able to offer people who've got a bit less experience a bit more structure to get involved, and then build up their setting knowledge and be able to take on more individual stuff later. And hopefully it will just help us deliver some cool big encounters, which we know people like.
That's cool.
Is there is there like minimum requirements to be like to work on as crew NPC? And then, because I imagine because you get a bit of a peek behind the curtain, is there like a rule on like being a civilian again? Like what's the...
You have to sign an NDA or something?
Yeah. So right now there isn't any minimum requirement. There have been in the past, but basically at the minute we need enough people that we're getting rid of that requirement. And also, we do want to try and give new people an on-ramp if possible. Do bear in mind, you are going to have to go out to the player base and talk to people about stuff that's potentially in depth. So if you haven't got any setting knowledge, you've got to bear that in mind. You might not know what is going on quite as much. And
as you think you do.
yeah, yeah. So
I
it
know
might be
that's how I model my way through Empire.
yeah,
For sure.
might be a steep learning curve.
Throw
But
yourself at the deep end. There's no better way to learn.
Yeah, true.
That's literally how I've learned anything about Empire. Is just get involved in the most prominent way.
one of the benefits is that your event is much more broken down than it is as a player. So if you say the wrong thing as a player, that's you've got to deal with that for the entire rest of the event. If you're on NPC crew, it's like, well, most encounters don't last more than sort of 2 hours. So it's like you say the wrong thing, okay, we get over it. Onto the next
Change
one. You'll be playing
costume, move
something.
on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you'll probably be doing something different. So if you weren't such a big fan of that particular encounter, next one's probably going to be completely different. It might be more to your taste.
It's just quite varied. So instead of playing like the same sort of thing for the weekend, you get a good mix of everything.
Yeah, which is certainly I like that. You get to access so many more bits of the setting, and you get to access bits of the setting that no player is ever going to be able to portray. As a player, you're never going to be able to portray a herald or a barbarian or anything like that.
So can you apply to be a crew or play an NPC while still playing Empire? Can you do both? So if I were to apply and they would go, okay, well, we need an NPC between 2 and 4 on Saturday, so make sure you're available and then come and do that, and then you can just go back to playing your character for the weekend, or do you have to have a non-active character?
So if you want to be full-time NPC crew, that's a full-time plot role. So you will not get to play the vast majority of the event. You'll be allowed to play what's called an R&R character and rest and relaxation character. So that might be your existing character. If you've not retired them, you might create one. If you don't, I have one. But you won't be able to play for more than sort of a few hours each event, usually in the evening sort of thing. You won't be able to be a major participant in the game. And there's a bunch of rules about things that you can participate in. So you can't have a title. You can't go on anything that takes up a player slot. So you can't go on a skirmish and things of this nature. You're quite limited. Occasionally there are encounters which we put up on the Wind of Fortune, which might ask for volunteer crew. To sort of in a similar manner to monstering, but for things, but that's an as and when situation. So just for logistical reasons, PD does have quite strict separation between player and crew. With NPC crew, we ask that you give it a go for a year, sort of a minimum. Obviously, if it's not your taste, you can go back. Essentially, the idea is that we don't want people going back and forth between crewing and playing, which is common in some systems. But at Empire, we want to give that separation between a player coming out of the game, crewing for a while, and being immersed in that crew experience, because it is quite involved. And then if you want to go back to playing, you go back fully to playing at a later date.
Empire's there's a load of mysteries in the game, right? There's as certain as we all behave about the way of virtue and the labyrinth, there's mysteries there. There's mysteries when it comes to things like the Black Plateau, and obviously you're behind the curtain a little bit. But I imagine that information's compartmentalized. Do you know any secrets from the? I'm not going to ask you to reveal them, but do you know any secrets from the game? And then do you find it weird coming back and being like, oh, I actually know the answer to that, but I can't tell you? Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So certainly, in answer to the compartmentalized question, yes, it is. There's certainly NPCs who've been playing a long time who are not, don't want to understand the sort of deeper mysteries per se. And obviously it depends on what your plot is. If you sign up for a plot that is like the mysteries of the Black Plateau revealed, you probably are going to find out at some point. But if you don't, but if you don't go digging yourself, you can keep yourself pretty hidden, to be honest. And not every plot that goes out is going to be some sort of world shattering revelation. Since I've become a plot writer, obviously I'm now much more involved in seeing all of the structure and bones of everything that goes on behind the scenes in terms of what is going on, what's going to happen, and all of that stuff. It does change your relationship to the game. It would be I think I could come back to playing again. It was something that I was toying with. But you'd have to come back for very different reasons. Basically, you'd have to come back purely sort of for the role play. You know, you're not going to be, you're not going to be wowed by any of the mysteries or any of the secrets. But I do want to say there is still a bunch of stuff that I have not looked into or not asked about that I'm still, don't know the answer to.
I think I'd really struggle to not just be like, oh, Matt, by the way, what's this? Oh, what's that? By the how does this work? Like, I'd just feel like, because I'm terrible for spoiling myself for things.
I just like knowing things. Like, I don't like not knowing. I don't care about being surprised. I would just much rather know. So, like you said about plot writing and stuff, like, I'm not going to ask you to reveal anything unless you would like to, obviously. Maybe something about the Valorn, maybe, that I could use. No, kidding, but kind of not. But, like, what can you tell us about, like, plot writing?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. So essentially, like I said earlier, I got into it via Challenge the Iron Duke because when I portrayed Revel, when I started portraying Revel, I'd been NPC'd for a year or so, year or 2 years, and essentially they needed someone to be the face of Varian in the field, dealing with his challenges, because it's a plot with sort of a player facing logistical burden, right? So you just needed someone to do it. And the previous person was who was doing it was leaving Castellan. If for any old heads who remember her, but I wasn't writing at the time, so I was being given challenges and whatnot, and just sort of acting them out on the field. Eventually, the person who was writing the challenges left plot team, so I was like, I could do this. I'll take it over. And then I sort of got a taste for it, basically, and was like, I could write some other stuff. That's through a very slippery slope. That's how we ended up here. I think every plot writer is different, just like sort of every writer and player is different about why they write things. I'm definitely writing for sort of memorable moments. That's always, I've got a big book of ideas and a spreadsheet of ideas, and that's always what I'm writing for. I surprise people, who see how involved I am in Empire when I tell them that I don't really like fantasy that much. I think the only fantasy book I've ever read is Game of Thrones. I don't think I've read a single other.
And that's barely. Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly right. No, I'm a history guy for the most part, which is one of the appeals of Empire to me, is that it is. I have this line that I'm like, Empire isn't fantasy. It's a setting. It's got fantastical elements, but it's not. It's fundamentally, it's not fantasy.
I agree with that.
I think it's just because they've gone so in depth with the lore and they've just made it so extensive and believable that they haven't just created a story. They've got this entire world and just history and everything. They've just gone so in depth with everything. It's just so much more believable.
It's also really real human stories in a lot of instances. Like you say, there's fantastical stuff going on, but so much, obviously, like so much of the history of the Empire is like, whilst there's magic happening, there's like just historic, like things that could just be in a normal history, right? Yeah. Like you've got Nikavar, and you've got like all the I can't think of anyone else, but you've got these historical figures where there's no magic involved. It's just feels like an alternative history kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of the appeal to me. And so when I'm writing, I'm trying to bring out these like human moments and things like that. Sometimes using fantastical stuff, sometimes not. But at the end of the day, I don't have like a burning passion to understand what is the true nature of the Valorn and things like that. That's just not what I'm writing about. But obviously, some plot writers, that's they're all about that. All about bringing out the true nature of the stars and getting involved with tarpers and all of that stuff. Or everyone's got their own area of expertise and their own area of sort of interest, both in terms of the setting and in terms of how they like to write. And that's great because there's all sorts of different players out there. Different players are going to like different stuff, and sometimes you just got to sort of throw stuff at the wall and see what people pick up.
I want to kind of just we're kind of getting towards I think a good place to kind of to rest. We usually try to shoot for an hour, but I want to kind of just really cement this, because we saw about there's some NPC kind of positions are opening up, and there's the opportunity to apply. I think it'd be really good to just get from you, like, what do you think makes what do you think people? How should I phrase this? How do you think people should know it's the role for them to try crewing? Like, what are you looking for in a person who is like, oh, I like X, Y, and Z. I should apply for crewing. Like, what would you say would drive people to do that?
I think I've always thought that the perfect person for crewing is someone who either has played the game for a while and has sort of got to the end of the road with their character, or their character's died and they're like, I love the setting, I love the game, but I don't really have another thing I want to do as a player. Or someone who's, loves the setting, but is like, just the sheer openness of the gameplay, is sort of the political nature of it, is just not for me. But I still want to be involved somehow, and I still want to role play. Or if you're someone who is really interested in, heralds and barbarians, foreigners, and all of this stuff, and wants to portray something different. I think if that's the sort of thing that appeals to you, that's the sort of person we really want as NPC crew, people who can come in and will really understand, love the setting, and want to bring it to life for the other players. Obviously, like I say, it takes all sorts. There's all sorts of skills involved. We've got some people good at crimes, good at music, good at good at talking, having actual debates with people. There's all sorts of different skill sets that can be utilized, and people will write plots based on NPC skill sets. So whatever you've got, it's got something to valuable. But yeah, I think if you've got that love of the setting, but you're not sure how to apply it as a player, I think that's really the type of person that we want.
I think it's something I can very much see myself doing after.
I could see you doing it.
Well, after, like, if once Tristan dies, I feel like I'm gonna be like, I'm in the middle of. Do you know what I mean? Like, once that big thing's done, you like to take a break from being that kind of character for a while. Would be really cool. I think.
That's kind of like my plan. Like, I always thought, oh, maybe I'll just go and have like a throwaway character in another nation and just chill out for a year or something. But I honestly think that I probably would just like to join the skirmish crew.
Yeah.
I think I would do like maybe a year on the skirmish crew, just go out, smack a load of shit, and have a fucking great time, and then to be honest, I'll probably just re-roll into Navarre. Like, Navarre is my nation.
But
like,
I can very much see, like, I can see the appeal of crewing, I think.
Yeah.
Because, again, a lot of what I do is RP stuff. Because especially after doing different LARPs, I think Empire can sometimes feel like a game people are trying to win. But I'm very much like, I'm just here to role play and have fun, so I can very much see the appeal. So maybe when Tristan dies, I'll hop over the fence.
Yeah, it's a line I hear a lot.
Over the hedge.
Yeah.
But no, it's always great when people come over, and quite a few people, it's not uncommon for people to come over for a year after they've had a character death or retirement, and just take a year out, come do some NPC stuff, see the other side, and then they go back to playing at the end. Or there's people like me. I'll be totally honest. I've when I came to crewing, I was like, oh, this is just better than playing for me. This is absolutely what I want. Yeah, I enjoy it more than I did when I was a paying player. It's
good that you found your place.
Yeah, no, I absolutely did. And like I say, it was because I had that love of the setting. I wanted to bring it to life. But just didn't quite feel my pace as the player within that sort of competitive PvP game. Just wasn't, that part of it just wasn't necessarily for me.
Sure, that makes sense.
I'd definitely give it a go.
Yeah, no, I think so. I've not properly crewed. Oh no, I have properly crewed one LARP, and I was the NPC, but no one in the game knew I was an NPC. If you want to hear more about that, listen to the LARP Noobs Oasis 2 coverage. It was amazing fun, but I was a secret NPC, which feels like it's cheating.
You sneaky boy.
Yeah. But yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Mike. I think it's been really useful, and I hope people kind of listen to this and take from it like that they want to give NPCing a crack.
It really sounds like a lot of fun. Like I would do it if I wasn't so invested in my character.
We'll just kill Neve, and then
you could fucking try. She's gonna survive forever.
Is there anything that you wanted to plug whilst you're here? Anything you want to promote whilst you've got the airtime?
Yep, I've got a Substack which I started relatively recently called The Plot Cabin. So it's just theplotcabin.substack.com. I write sort of fortnightly, not on any totally regular schedule, but basically just write some articles about LARP design and LARP ideas. Sometimes some recollections of LARPs that I've been to. So I've done one on the Dragon's Hunt. I'll be writing another piece about Dragon's Hunt, which was an incredible LARP. I hope they do another run of it. But yeah,
me too.
But yeah, check out the Plot Cabin if you want to see just read a bit more in depth into sort of like the design elements for LARP and sort of how plot writers think.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, we'll link that when we throw the episode up. So if you check the description down below, you should be able to find that. We'll put it on Facebook as well. But yeah, no, thank you very much. And yeah, welcome back everybody to Larps and Tarps. I don't know if we'll be going back to our regularly scheduled programming quite yet. We've got a couple of LARPs going on. I'm going to 3 separate podcasts are sending 6 members to Flying Led Lawless. Half of us crew, half of us players.
If I had the time off, I would have got a ticket because I would fuck with that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that. So we'll hope maybe have some coverage of that. But yeah, once we swing around to E1 again, we'll be back in full force.
Oh God, I cannot wait. So
far away.
Whilst we have you, is there anything big for us to expect at E1? If you can tell us, of course.
At E1, well, hopefully in the Winds of Fortunes, there'll be something that's very related to me that will come out.
Ooh.
I'm not going to tell you.
Ooh, exciting.
A little teaser. But
that's very exciting.
Oh, now I'm even more excited.
Very excited.
Matt,
that's what you get from me. Everything else you got to wait for Winds of Fortune.
No, gotta do this.
Can you tell us when the winds are coming?
No. A week before, man.
Perfect. That's fine. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to everybody at home for listening. And we will see you when we are back next. But for now, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.